Well, you know, we always struggle for a cold open because when you do this show 46 times a season, you obviously, you run out of things to come up with. But some people just write this stuff for us at the end of the day. And, Exhibit A here is going to be our good friend Big Tone from that good old place called Utica. Take a look.
All right, folks, what an exciting week one that was. Big shout out to In the Huddle D3 guys. Really quick observations before we move on to this week. JB, his tan in person is the real deal. An observation we made. And the other observation we made was His Eminence, Mayor Frank Rossi. We didn't think he was as tall as he was until we saw him in person. We really thought he was a little shorter than he was. Really impressed us with his height. Now,
oh my God.
Here we go. First business trip of the season. Our fearless leader is back. Let's see what he has to say.
That's right, brother. Moose Hogan here, back on the show. Last week was electric. I was there for the Pioneer Walk. I didn't get to see the Huddle guys. But last week was electric. Coach Rod said, got to get more dressed up when we go on business trips. So I think I'm going to spruce it up this week a little bit. Got my best outfit on. Here you go, brother. First business trip of the year. When you hear the ground trembling, when you hear the earth shattering, brother, that's all the Moose maniacs all over the world. There's millions, there's hundreds of Moose maniacs coming to you, brother. So John Rose, let him know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do when the Moose maniacs, the pioneers and the 12th man, come down on you?
What you gonna do, brother?
We do appreciate that he eliminates podcast unsafe music in these days, so we're not going to get slammed there. But
what a cutie too.
Yes. So apparently, I'm the tallest 5'9" guy in the history of man. I didn't realize that, or apparently, I come across much shorter than 5'9".
Yeah, I'm glad that I have a tan because on this video I feel like my complexion is the same color as the shirt. I don't know what it is, but hey. Okay.
You're absolutely right.
Maybe I'm just a ruddy guy, I guess as they call it, but too much sun down here or something.
Yeah, well, it happens. Trust me. But JB, we got a lot to talk about here. Week 2 coming up. Our first live preview show of the season. So I'm sure something's going to go wrong. Plenty, in fact. But we do have a guest, and so we got to start moving things along here. So, folks, you're watching Season 17, our Week 2 preview show of In the Huddle. There it is. Every year, I try to figure out, do we tweak the theme song? Do we keep it as is? You know what? By the fact that you still dance to it during it.
Yeah,
got it. Oh my God, no. No. Okay. God's honest truth, I debated using Jaden Daly's audio for the first touchdown of Merchant Marine until he said they got the Ziggy off the board, and I was like, I don't know if I can do that. We're all too old to be doing that. Yeah, no cap on that. Okay, anyway, week 2 coming up here, JB. And there's some interesting games, to say the least. Let's start running through some of them here. I would call it less action in week 1, technically, in terms of focus games or ranked versus ranked, but there's some definitely good stuff on the horizon here. Let's take a look first at Region 1. And jumping out at us here, we've got that St. Lawrence-Norwich game. You got a little helmet there. I figured you did. Western Connecticut State, Mass Maritime, UNE or UNE versus WPI. I'm curious to see who WPI is at this point because they seemed to struggle last week against Woo State. Hardin-Simmons versus Curry. Now, that's my game of the week, only because I want to see how the second New England road trip treats the Cowboys. Remember what happened last year in that trip? Endicott, who we'll talk about in the next slide, it took them to the woodshed, basically, in that game. Well, we'll see what happens. Curry is not Endicott, but let's see what happens in that game. Coast Guard Anna Maria, Springfield Husson, your game of the week. Go ahead, take over there. Why are you focusing there?
Well, you got two teams with great rushing attacks, and apparently this Husson team, I mean, they put, this Jed Lober guy had 5 rushing touchdowns against Framingham State in week 1. I mean, this game could be over in like an hour and a half with all the running plays that are going to get called. So I'm excited to see, how Springfield matches up with the Eagles. That's a kind of a long road trip for them, up to Maine. So, it's a good challenge for the Pride, and we'll see if, Husson can contend in the CNE now. It's not the CCC anymore, but they were really impressive in week 1 and should give the Pride a good run for their money.
So the CNE that has the UNE and the WNE, is that where we're going with that?
I think so, yes.
Got it. Just making sure I got this all down now. Wesleyan versus Middlebury is the Welcome to NESCAC portion of our show. Hey NESCAC,
guys.
welcome back.
Welcome to the
Good
party.
see ya. There are, I believe, 5
Yes,
games.
of course.
On the
It's
slate.
so lovely to see you. Yes. We'll have some caviar in our tailgates. It'll be lovely.
Oh,
Yes,
no. No, don't do this. I can't edit this. Salve, Western New England is an interesting game, obviously. Rochester, Alfred State, Maine Maritime, Nichols. But there were our games.
Hey, welcome
of
back to Maine
choice.
Maritime.
Yeah. Yes, that is a good point, and kind of got lost in the mix of everything. But yeah, absolutely good point. Let's go to this Region 2 slide full screen. Yeah, please don't. Oh my God, you are you are on something today.
Morning.
Oh my God, it's
Friday,
way too
baby.
early for this. I need more coffee. Okay, Region 2 has some really good, interesting games. RPI Wilkes tonight at 6 o'clock. I will not be attending that as I'm wearing the Ballston Spa football pullover for a reason. Tonight they're playing their first home game versus Averill Park.
buddies.
And Averill Park went to the Super Bowl last year, this is a big game for Ballston Spa right out of the gate. Anyway, back to D3 football. Brockport, Susquehanna. Tempting for me to maybe pick that as my game of the week because that was the 6-5 showdown last year, if I remember correctly, in which Susquehanna eked one out somehow, some way. So we'll see about that. Endicott, Ithaca, both ranked, and after Ithaca's loss last week, I'm curious to see if they get a bounce back in that game. We'll talk more about it in our predictions, I'm sure. Muhlenberg, Salisbury. That is your game of the week, and I would have probably picked it if you didn't, so there you go. But also Hopkins, Newport. Christopher Newport, I should say.
Yeah.
That is one I'm curious to see after watching Hopkins last week sort of fumble out of the gate. If they're going to be able to start strong and win a game on the road against a very good Christopher Newport team. Let's not kid ourselves in that situation. Any thoughts on this slide here?
Well, I think it's just an interesting slate. I mean, it'll be curious to see, can Endicott take that next step? Beating Ithaca at home would be a really big feather in their cap. I mean, obviously they had the biggest upset in a while with taking down Hardin-Simmons last year, and then they had the close call in the playoffs against Cortland. So it seems like the Gulls are just this close to kind of jumping into that next level, and so it'll be interesting to see, especially an Ithaca team that's probably a little disappointed. Feels like they maybe should have won their week 1 opener against Hopkins. This is an important game for the Bombers to kind of assert themselves early. I think Muhlenberg Salisbury could be a track meet. I mean, those Gulls looked really impressive in week 1, and I think Coach Millen is going to have to scheme up some good defensive plays to keep this, high-powered offensive attack that put up 48 points last week, something in like the 28-point range if they're going to win this game.
Yeah, over 600 yards of offense for Salisbury in that game, although they gave up a lot as well. So that'll be an interesting one to pick later on in the show. Region 3, interesting game there, the Hobart-Randolph-Macon game. Not something you see every day, right? But DePauw-Berry, the DePauw-Berry is one that we both pick here as the game of the week. More on that in a second. Hampton-Sydney, Brevard, Trinity-Belhaven. Could be interesting after Trinity's problems last week against TLU. ETBU Hendricks is a good cross-appeal game as well. Merville versus Center, and Centenary versus Texas Lutheran. I don't know if Centenary is going to be able to get their first win in that game either, ultimately. But DePauw-Berry, you've been focused on this game for a little while. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is where, it's kind of ironic. We didn't plan it out, but we ended up having Luke Marsh, the linebacker from DePauw, in our preseason show. We had Brandon Cade. Josh Rogers is also a really great running back. We saw some highlights of him in our last Crunch Time show. So this is going to be strength against strength. Great rushing attack versus a great rushing defense. Both teams can put up a lot of points. This is basically a potential playoff preview game, you could say, depending on how things sort of fall out. Both of these teams expected to win their conferences. Both of these teams probably expected to advance at least a couple, or they would like to advance a couple rounds in the NCAA playoffs. So I think this is awesome that we get this game in week 2. Two really great programs battling each other early on, and it should be a fantastic game.
At this point, I'm going to explain my note that is kind of in the diagonal on the bottom there. It's too early to discuss NPI, though. And Logan.
What?
Yeah, sorry. Listen, folks.
Yeah, it's way too early. Come on, man.
NPI is not going to be relevant until week 7 or week 8. The numbers just aren't going to be realistic until that point. And trying to even run models on it don't make any sense either unless we're trying to compare to the NCAA numbers just to make sure we've got our models correct on that stuff. There are just rules of thumb you need to understand with NPI, okay? If you have a 9-game conference schedule, then you better hope the one out-of-conference game you've got is a really good team you're playing in that situation. If you've got only 6 games or even 5 games in conference, then if you've got a good mix of teams up above, then you stand a better chance to stand out if you need help on the bubble, ultimately. What's the bubble? 0 losses, you're in. 1 loss, you're probably in. Very, very unlikely for a 1-loss team now to not get in because of the way this is going to play out and the way this model is set up. 2 losses, that's where you've got to worry about everything we're talking about. 3 losses, if you have an outstanding out-of-conference schedule and you have multiple games in out-of-conference, you could still make it in with 3 losses against some not-so-hot 2-loss teams that might be in the board as well. That's what we know right now. Whether or not a team's going to be a great team for your numbers or not, we won't know that until we get to a certain point this season. So trying to guess this, we'll tell you, hey, that game last week between Johns Hopkins and Ithaca, probably a good game for both of them in their MPI formula, right? The game versus between North Central and Aurora, and our guest from North Central is actually in the wings. I can see him right now, so BJ will be with you in a sec. But that game's great for their NPIs, and not like North Central's going to need it. I have a funny feeling, but maybe Aurora does. Who knows what happens in their season? They had an interesting week 1 situation. That's NPI, folks. Okay, that's all we can tell you until we get deep into the season, and that's all I can say. Having segments on shows and stuff like that's cute and nice and everything, but we're not going to be doing that on this show because it's just not worth it at this point. Let's go to Region 4 quickly here because there is not much on Region 4 slate here. I think I can go to Region 4. Yes, I can. JB, take us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I had a hard time trying to find exciting games in Region 4 for Week 2, but Alma's looking to rebound, and Denison had a loss to, I think, Linfield in Week 1, so they're trying to get on the board. They're definitely scheduling tough, so I got to give those guys, the Battling Bishops, credit for that. Ohio Wesleyan, Wabash, that's a solid kind of Midwestern old school program football game. So that's where I picked that one. I think both teams could, have a chance to be either a runner up or in that sort of top 3 in their respective conferences. So that should be a pretty competitive game. Although the Wabash we saw in Week 1 really blew the doors off their opponents. So maybe this will be a blowout too. Trine and Rolls-Holman, another good cross-conference matchup between the MIAA and the Heartland. So that might be worth tuning into on Saturday night. So kind of slim pickings in Region 4. Really, the big games this week are really in Region 5.
And let's go to Region 5 right now. I'll let you just keep rolling here, and then we'll have some relevance for our guest.
Yeah. I mean, the game of the week, if not the nation, is going to be the first game for North Central taking on Aurora, who looked a little iffy in the first half, but got the job done and beat, I think it was a Monmouth that they played in their first game, Frank? I'm blanking for some reason because got to love
Wartburg was
live.
Monmouth, Aurora, I will get to in a second.
Right. Okay. But there is another good game sort of earlier on with Illinois College and Lake Forest. This is kind of a classic Chicagoland rivalry between these two teams in the Midwest Conference. Illinois College got the automatic qualifier to the tournament last year. They had one of the highest scoring, highest yardage offenses in the country last year. They put up a lot of points. The Foresters are going to have to dig in at home on defense. Speaking of other good Chicagoland area games, Monmouth, who we just mentioned, is playing Chicago, who's looking for their first win. Calvin, who won pretty comfortably in Week 1, is going for their second win up in Wisconsin against Concordia. And then, the big game that everyone's going to be talking about this weekend. It's a night game on Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, I think 6 p.m. local, is the North Central Aurora battle. 2 top teams. It'll be exciting.
Nice T-shirt you got on there, and we're just going to jump in here and talk to BJ Adamchik, linebacker graduate from North Central College. BJ, I got to, I guess, ask you first of all. Thanks for joining us, obviously, for the show. But I mean, did it feel great just watching D3 football in Week 1 instead of playing D3 football in Week 1 for you guys? How does that whole off week on Week 1, which has happened before for your team, I believe, how does that feel for you and your teammates when you're kind of sitting there watching the rest of the nation play? Oh, I think we have some audio issues right now with BJ. We'll try to work those out real quick. And we'll see if we can get him back in a second here. He looks good over there, that's for sure. I mean, he's listed as
way better facial
5'9",
hair than either one of us.
5'9", 210 pounds, I think, or something like that. Which I mean, I'm 5'9", 170. I can't imagine how you get 40 more pounds on you.
3% body fat.
Yeah, probably.
In the gym is why he does it. Yeah,
exactly. And we'll kind of play through the audio issues here. We'll keep him tuned in the background just in case he's able to resolve that. One thing I'll point out as we do wait on that, we do have a schedule up here for North Central, ready to go here. And you can see, as we said, Aurora's the first game. Dubuque was the team that Aurora narrowly beat last week, or somewhat narrowly beat, a team that we thought that they would handle much more easily. Carthage, whatever. WashU, that's an interesting game now that WashU is going to be leaving the CCIW. Wheaton, obviously for the Little Brass Bell. And then, you look to the Augustana game, maybe it's the only other game that really poses a threat in our minds. I mean, obviously, BJ's going to tell us that every game matters and they don't look ahead and all that stuff, and, more power to them on that. But at the same time, if we're being prognosticators here, the games to circle, Aurora, WashU, Wheaton, and Augustana on that schedule. What are you thinking?
I just got a text from BJ here, so I think I'll shoot that over to you, Frank. But I think, it's interesting because I was going to ask BJ about this, basically 10-week nonstop schedule and how do you, keep yourself healthy for that. You don't have a bye week. Maybe the fact that you're playing some teams in the back half of the schedule that aren't up to the same level is where, the starters can get some breaks here and there. But this year it's going to be different for North Central and pretty much any sort of top-ranked team, in that there is an opportunity to earn a first-round playoff bye, which, as far as I know, hasn't happened ever. Maybe it did back in the 90s or something when they had a smaller field or whatever, but at least in recent years, that's kind of unique. So the Cardinals will get a chance to get a bye week potentially, assuming they run their schedule and finish 10-0, and then kind of wait and see. And the other thing that we'll get into closer to the playoffs is how this new system sort of protects the number one seed, which hasn't always happened. Of course, last year somehow North Central, even though they were ranked number one, ended up as a 2 seed. That's a whole other thing. Maybe the system will actually help them out with that. We'll see.
Or maybe not. The numbers are the numbers now, so that'll be interesting to watch that play out. Let's do this. Let's go to the Region 6 slide. And the best thing maybe for him to do is to use his cell phone to call in to us. Maybe if he could do that using his browser on his cell phone, that might be the easiest way. Same methodology, just using the camera on the cell phone, because usually that eliminates our audio issues in those situations. So we've got here in Region 6, Pat Coleman is going to be attending this game, from what I understand, Wartburg at St. John's. Northern Michigan, one of the 2 games outside Division III for lacrosse this season. Lacrosse has an interesting schedule in that it's going to play havoc on NPI numbers for them. The game against RPI, they've got to root for RPI this season no matter what, just in case they need the insurance, basically, because they need that out-of-conference game to really count really well for them. And that's another, we'll tell you little idiosyncrasies about NPI. That is, Northern Michigan and Grand Valley State University, I think, are the, 2 issues over there. And it looks like we are solving the BJ Adamchik issue as we speak. He's almost ready to go, but we'll finish on this slide.
Okay, great.
Linfield Oshkosh, that's my game of the week in 6 because, Oshkosh had a great game and ultimately that Wheaton game, and now they play Linfield right after that. So you got to give them credit for scheduling and. Coach Jennings, hats off to you there, sir, for what you're doing. I get it, and I don't blame you for doing it because you kind of need to win the WIAC ultimately is your feeling. We get that. But still, testing your team like this in the first 2 weeks, hats off to you, sir, and to the team as well. And you see the rest of what's up there. Anything stand out to you real quick as we get ready? You picked Wartburg St. John's.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously a big game, as is Linfield Oshkosh. But one thing I would like to draw some attention to, which I think is interesting, is the Central versus Cal Lutheran game. So they're going to be coming from the Midwest all the way out to the Conejo Valley. It's about an hour and a half bus ride from LAX airport. Pretty long road trip for Central, who may be a potential contender in the ARC. So I'll be kind of curious how that plays out. The Lutz, they're the Kingsmen. Their stadium out in Thousand Oaks is beautiful. If you've seen some of the coverage of J.J. Lapp playing with the Rams, that's where they train, out in Thousand Oaks. And so that could be an interesting game to sort of see. This Central team is someone that I want to keep an eye on in Region 4 and 5. And so we'll see what happens with the Dutch out in California.
BJ, don't worry, you look good. We're coming to you right now, and here we go. We're going to try this again. That's us, but that's him there. And let's get your microphone on too. Let's see if we can hear him. BJ, how you doing?
Good. We got everything figured out now?
We got this.
Yes,
See,
we do.
look,
Technology, yes.
live streaming at its finest, right there, folks. Our first live preview show, and of course, we're going to have the issues with the audio. But BJ, we appreciate you powering it through. Okay, so back to the original question:
thanks, man.
how did it feel just sitting there watching all of D3 play almost in week one, except for maybe the NESCAC? And you guys had to kind of sit there and twiddle your thumbs and watch streaming, or did you maybe even go to a game? What did you do in your week one?
I kind of said it right there. It's just sitting there twiddling our thumbs, Watching everybody else play is always tough, but it's good to know that we have a little bit of extra time to get ready. But, I mean, like you said, there's not much to do other than watch the games, and nobody really came here to watch games. We came here to play. So it's good that we finally got that out of the way, got our bye week, week one down, got an extra week of practice, and now we're ready to roll. We're amped up.
Yeah, and while we were kind of figuring out the audio visual issues here, BJ, I kind of already previewed my question, but now that you can actually hear it, you guys have a 10-week schedule with no breaks, but this season, for the first time ever, assuming that you guys run the table, win the conference like you were expected to, and you want the preseason number one in the CCIW, you do get a bye week. What would that mean, for you guys, or is it? That's too far in the future? You're just focused on Aurora?
I mean, we definitely are. You got to focus on the here and now. You can't get to week two without getting past week one. But like you said, assuming we do what we're supposed to do and what we expect to do and get through the regular season undefeated, that bye week would be huge. I remember last year during the playoffs, injuries was something that we struggled with a lot, especially towards the quarters, semis, and that national championship. We had a lot of guys who were either out or were playing at 70%. So being able to have that week, assuming we get there, being able to have that week to recover, game plan a little bit more, not have to kill our bodies in practices, getting ready for national teams. I mean, that's something that's huge, and that goes for everybody. I mean, everybody's always looking for a bye week or any extra advantage at that point in the year, and at that point in the year, you're not going to be getting that much better as a football team. It's more so just who can be fresher, who can be better with what they already have.
Yeah. And to sort of build on that, BJ, you've started 30 consecutive games. You basically played in 2 seasons what most D3 football players play in 3. You led the team in tackles both seasons. I mean, how do you keep yourself in shape and healthy, or are you just like every other football player? You're just kind of doing what you can week by week, working with the training staff, keeping yourself as healthy as possible?
Yeah, it's a little bit of the latter where you just got to get what you can over summer, do as much as you can, and hope it'll last you through the season. And then, like I touched on in the last question, just trying to find ways to stay healthy, whether that's extra time in the training room, ice baths, soft tissue work, whatever it may be. But then, on our off days, I'll go to one of the local gyms around here, Acceleration Sports Performance, and I'll kind of fill in the gap. So if I need to do a little bit of extra conditioning, I'll hit that. Or if I got some issues with my knee, I'll do some extra rehab work for that. But for the most part, it's just, hopes and prayers trying to get through the season.
BJ, you're listed as a grad. That means you didn't necessarily need to come back this season for all intents and purposes. You probably had your COVID year of eligibility, if I had to guess. That's usually what we read into that. But, you came back. When did you make the decision that you were going to come back this season? And did the Cortland game, the Stag Bowl, have anything to do with that? I mean, you had great numbers in that game. Let's not kid ourselves. I think it was 7 tackles, 11 assists in that game, according to what I was just going back and looking at. I mean, you led on the tackle chart for your team, it looks like. Yeah, 18 tackles. So, I mean, you did everything you could, it seems like, to try to win that game and get the championship. But did that game have any influence? What did you learn from it? And did it affect, this whole idea of grad year coming back and playing?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it definitely did. Had a great game, didn't get the job done. There's still more work to be done. Maybe if we had won that game, and I'm sitting here with 2 national championships in a row. I had 2. I had one in my final season. It's like, okay, maybe I don't need to do that. But that game absolutely played a big role in it. Nobody wants to leave on a loss. It's a real sour taste in your mouth. But I think more importantly, Coach Spencer's he's been calling up the seniors and the fifth years and saying, all right, why are you still here? What about the program made you want to come back? And pretty universal, everybody's saying that game left a bad taste in my mouth, but more so, everybody that's here, I have a strong relationship with the coaches, the trainers, the players. The guys here are my lifelong friends, and leaving them when I still have more time that I could give them that just doesn't sit right with me, even more so than losing the game.
Really appreciate that candid response because we ask players that from time to time and they kind of like roll their eyes at us. But that was as honest as I've ever heard an answer to that question about the unfinished business situation. For a group like North Central that is dedicated over the last 5-6 years, especially to winning and national championship games and everything else, it's a really weird situation where last year may have been viewed as a disappointment. Most teams would give their right arm for what you guys had a chance for last year to get to the national championship. But, I mean, you helped lead this school, this program, to this greatness level where it's an expectation now to a certain degree. How do you feel personally about that in the legacy you've helped to leave once you're done at North Central after this season?
I would actually argue I haven't left that much of a legacy yet. I mean, I've played well and I've been a good football player, but there's, I mean, I don't know how many, but there's hundreds of good football players that have come through North Central. The guys who have really left the legacy are the guys who have been really great captains and leaders, and guys who have gone on to GA here and been, long-term coaches like a lot of our staff has. I think Coach Spencer, I think he said he graduated in 2002, and he's been here ever since. So he's given his life to the program. So guys like that are who are truly leaving a legacy. And right now, I'm just trying to be a good leader and focus on being a really great football player.
JB, it's another coach that's younger than us right there. Yeah, really.
Yeah, we're definitely getting up there, man. Well, one of the little sort of interesting kind of subtext or stories with this game with Aurora is the fact that you actually have a guy in your team now named Trey Madsen, a wide receiver who played for Aurora last year. He may not have given everyone sort of the secret sauce per se, because I'm sure Coach Beebe is going to scheme up what he can. But having a guy from the other team is kind of helpful. What's it been like? Him kind of integrating in with the team. I mean, you guys have a huge roster. I'm looking through, and there's transfers from Indianapolis, Tennessee Tech, Ottawa, all these places. But has he provided a little extra context going into this game, or is it just we're going to scheme like they're just any other team that we've got to play?
Just treat them like another team. I mean, they're really good. They got a lot of firepower on offense, and they got a stout defense. But as far as like insider trade secrets or anything like that, nothing too much there. I feel like there's an unspoken moral rule when it comes to that. We're not giving out playbooks or trading playbooks with anybody, so nothing too much there. But I will say he has provided us a little bit extra fire. I mean, he's a great player. We're really lucky to have him. He's contributed a lot, and he's fit in really well with the team. So we're really excited to have him, and hope he, can maybe break a record or two on Saturday.
That would be interesting for sure. We'll see what happens. But it's another interesting start situation question coming up here. You're really not that far from home. In fact, I was plotting out. I will be at the game tomorrow. I'm flying out in the morning to cover Illinois College at Lake Forest, and then your game, because of the way that's slotting, it's almost perfect, traffic willing. But I'm going to be staying basically on my way back toward Midway in the Naperville area. So obviously, Aurora is not that far away, and that means you're still probably going to have a hellacious home or a fan base show up and razzing me for about 3 hours as usual. Because Lord knows I hate North Central and all the other things that I've been told for how many years now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Just hate you guys. You're awful for Division III. My God, we love you, but but nonetheless, let's go back to the crowd situation. Talk about the fan base. Talk about what's going to be there tomorrow night. Your fans have to be frothing at the mouth just about because of the extra week themselves. And what do they mean to you guys?
We're awesome. I think we have an amazing fan base. I mean, you've seen the tailgates that we do on Saturdays. That's honestly one of my favorite parts of game day, is having a home game and getting to go there afterwards and eat the food and interact with everybody. But I mean, yeah, I'm hoping that they're foaming at the mouth, getting ready to go out there after the disappointing end we had last year in the long off season. I'm hoping it's going to be packed. I'm hoping it's going to be rowdy. Hoping they give everybody who's not in red a hard time. So, they're really awesome. They're loyal. They're energetic, passionate. great to have him.
Is there still the apparent food truck thing that comes out to the tailgate? I remember that one year I was out there. Is the food truck still out there?
Every now and then it is. Hopefully it'll make an appearance because we only got 4 home games this year, so that's always a fan favorite. Hopefully, if you come out to another home game, they'll go big for you and really put on a show.
Awesome. I want to get to know you a little better, BJ. So here's kind of a 2-part question. Number one, does the number 34 have like a certain significance for you? Is that something you wore in high school? Because most linebackers are typically like in the 50s. 34 is kind of a traditional running back number. Just kind of curious about that. And then also, how does a guy from Raleigh, North Carolina end up in the Chicagoland area? That's a pretty interesting, change of pace, because when you look at North Central's roster, I mean, it is mostly Midwestern guys. What brought you all the way up from that sort of Research Triangle area there in Raleigh?
Yeah, starting with the number, I wish I had a cool story for it. I'm pretty sure I wore 44 in high school so long ago. At least it feels like I don't even know. I think I wore 44.
Yeah.
And then when I got here, it just kind of made the switch, and I'm a very, very superstitious player. So it worked out freshman year, and I've stuck with it ever since. And like you said, it's a running back number. I like to think I could switch sides if I needed to. Got a little bit of athleticism to me, but hoping I still could. But then, yeah, coming from Raleigh, far trip, didn't actually know North Central or really anything with the school. My dad was actually the one who found them. So I kind of had my criteria, location, football, and academics, and he was helping me find schools that, fit those criteria, and I would reach out to him. But yeah, I sent him an email either probably week 0, week 1 of college football season 2019. Never heard back from them, thought they didn't like my film, so I moved on. And then they hit me up about a week after they won their first national championship, and the email read something like, "Hey, we love your film. Sorry we didn't get back to you. We were busy winning a national championship," which, if you ask me, is a pretty good recruiting tactic. So I said, all right, maybe we should go back and give him another look.
Yeah. Okay, that's I got to ask. Does Joe Sacco, should he be feeling a threat right now that his running back slot back there is in trouble because BJ Adamchik is going to be, he's going to be out there running in touchdowns instead of Sacco? I mean, what does Sacco have to worry about right now?
Absolutely nothing. It's a goal of mine to score one this year, but I don't think anybody in that running back room has anything to worry about. They do their job, I do mine for a reason.
I'm going to be watching for number 34 in the backfield tomorrow night when I'm doing the end zone shots, if it's goal to go at the 1 or 2 yard line. And I expect to see this happen then, if that's the case. And I will have it on film for you from every angle possible I can get it at. So we'll see what happens here. BJ, we appreciate your candor. We appreciate you and North Central. All kidding aside, we pick games. We do the prognostication. It's nothing personal against any teams because we've gotten to know you guys so much over the last how many years that you guys have been, the excellence of D3 on the field. So, keep doing what you're doing for sure out there. And also to the fan base, keep razzing me tomorrow night. I know it's coming. So just do what you're going to do, okay? I'll live. But anyway, BJ, at this point, you have the opportunity for shout-outs to any family, friends, teammates, coaches, or anybody else that might be watching the show. BJ Adamchik, the floor is yours.
You kind of listed off the big 4 right there. Friends and family, always been super supportive, helped me get to where I am. Coaches and teammates, couldn't have done, we wouldn't be where we were without each other. So they always put in a lot of work. They helped me get to where I am, and I'm hoping I can return the favor for them. But, I want to say thanks to you guys. You guys do a great job with, putting a lot of effort into D3 football. It's not as big of a industry or show as D1 or the NFL is. So whenever we got people like you guys hyping us up, it's always really great, and it's really good for the sport. So thank you guys. And Mr. Baker, lovely shirt there.
It's funny, BJ. I have a bunch of D3 football T-shirts, and my wife is like, I hate all these shirts. But she did say she really likes the North Central one. She's like, that red looks really nice on you. I'm like, okay, and it's actually really soft cotton. This is a high quality T-shirt you can get from North Central, and apparently it matches my red face that apparently I have. So hey, what are you gonna do?
Oh gosh, BJ, I do want to go back and say one thing to you as we part ways with you. You're a humble guy, and I'm going to make it clear to you from people that observe this quite a bit that you are leaving a legacy, and the greatness that you've shown on the field, it's almost unparalleled out there. You are something special on the field and to our division, and obviously to North Central, but be proud of the legacy you leave once you have a chance to look back at it, because you're not done yet. So, enjoy the season and then understand you are leaving a legacy in Division III football.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Job's not done, so let's hope we can build on it some more.
I hear you. I will see you
Yeah,
tomorrow
man,
night.
Yeah, you'll see the mayor tomorrow. Maybe worst case, best case scenario, I'll try to see you in Houston, man. Good luck this year.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for powering through with us, too, on the technical glitches, but we got it to happen. I'm glad we did. BJ, Thank you. Talk to you soon. And that was BJ Adamchik from North Central, graduate linebacker. He did a great job getting the tech ironed out on his end and joining us, and I'm glad he did. Because
at least we didn't have one of those situations where the phone went like...
Yeah, you always get scared.
You always get scared that you're going to be what? So oh...
Having said that, your sign fell during the last show. We kept it in, as you know. Did you tape that thing up at all, or what'd you do to make sure that doesn't repeat itself today?
I put a lot more tape behind the sign today, so I hope it seems like it's hanging in there.
Your wife's
we'll
gonna
keep
kill
our fingers crossed.
Your wife's gonna kill you.
It's still the painter's tape, so it should be okay. But I just used a lot. Okay, just gonna make sure that really sticks. We've got 19 more minutes. Come on, baby, let's go.
Listen, normally I would bring my sign with me. I've got the little one that we used at the RPI game, but I don't want to be, identifiable for this North Central crowd. So basically,
they're gonna let you have it, man. Those guys are gonna come after you.
Frank! Oh my God. Nate Welcher, I still have nightmares on that. But I said it earlier. Let me expound on it right now. Yes, tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock it's local time, Central time. I'm going to be attending the Destin Chance show, maybe, or the A.J. Jackson show, depending on how you look at things. Illinois College versus Lake Forest. That should be a really good matchup. How many times do I get to say I'm attending multiple Region 5 games in the same weekend? I don't think I've ever gotten to say that. And so, this is part of our commitment to try to get out to the other regions as much as we can. This was a great week to do it. There's some great football, don't get me wrong, on the East Coast. But there was an opportunity here, and 50,000 points later, Southwest-wise, I'm making the trip. So 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central, Illinois College at Lake Forest. Get to see Jim Catanzaro, our good friend and coach out there for Lake Forest. And he already has prodded me not to attend because I'm a curse, of course, to a coach.
Distraction, yes.
And then 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock local time, I'll make the trek down to Aurora for the North Central Aurora game. I should probably ask them for a press pass, but we'll assume that I can get in and cover the game as normal and get to meet Coach Beebe for the first time in person. We've tried to get him on the show before, just we always ran into time issues and schedule issues. That's our fault as much as anybody's. And so we'll have, if he's able to win a game, obviously we'll have him in the recorded interviews afterward. Before we get into predictions, I'm going to ask you the honest question. Do you give Aurora a chance in this game?
Well, it depends. If they play like they did in the second half of their game last week, then yes. But if they come out like they did in the first half, this could be 28-0 by the end of the first quarter, and you'll be watching another 56-28 blowout where the Cardinals pull all their starters in the third quarter and just kind of roll. So I think, I still expect North Central to probably win this game just on sort of sheer talent. I know BJ downplayed it, but I'm pretty sure that, having a guy from the opposing team on your roster probably helps a little bit in from a preparation standpoint, knowing a little bit about kind of the schemes that they run and all that. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, because the Spartans are well coached. They have proven that they can topple top programs. But I have a feeling after what we saw in December that this North Central team is going to be coming out of the gate wanting to make a statement and basically say, we're back.
Yeah, BJ's answer about why he's back this season was pretty honest.
Yeah.
Unfinished business, clearly did it. And he's right. If he had left with 2 consecutive national titles, what more is there to prove at that point? So it's an interesting dose of, you know what, you didn't quite get there at the end of the second one that he could have had, and so he wants that second one. Luke Lannon, same thing, I'm sure, out there.
I was tempted to ask the question, but he kind of gave us the answer in a way, and it's not going to go over well for people from the Region 2 side of the world, but basically what he said was that if they were healthy, they would have won that game. And, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. You show up with the players that you have and you got to play, the game as it is and things pan out the other way. But, hey, it's a fair statement.
Listen, Cortland would make the counter argument, hey, we weren't healthy in the same way.
We were
that they had some banged up players.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that how versus Endicott, they had a bunch of linemen that weren't able to start because of injury or something like that.
Out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, you know what? Endicott would have the same argument back at that, though, too, that they probably didn't have their full slate of players. It's a grind. It is an absolute grind this season. Now, yes, we do get the bye week in what we call Week 12 now, and we also get a bye week, or actually 2 to 3 weeks, between semifinals and championship. It may play out a little bit differently because of that, but it is D3 football. People get hurt, can't play at 100%, whatever it is.
Football, period.
And so, you know what? Unfortunately, it is what it is. I'm not taking anything away from what he's saying there, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate position on that a little bit, too, to make sure everybody remembers it does play out for everybody a little bit in that respect.
It does.
The clock's up.
Yep.
The predictions are ready to begin. You have me by 1 game currently. We have 13 minutes on that clock. And let's see. I hear the music. You ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Clock is started, and here we
I
go.
have no idea what games we're picking here. We'll see what happens.
Well, you could kind of guess. Regions 1 and 3, Hardin, Simmons, and Curry is where we start, and this time I begin, I think. So it's Hardin Simmons will win this game. But again, we're looking at this game from the perspective of, this long road trip to New England didn't go well last year. Will go okay this year. Yes, it will, to the tune of 37-7 in favor of Hardin Simmons.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys will get it right this time around, and they'll win pretty big. I'd say like 45-10.
Like that. Springfield at Hudson. This was your game of the week in Region 1. Hit it.
Well, I'm a little nervous given the struggles that Pride had against WNE in Week 1, and Hudson looked awesome against Framingham State, but maybe the Rams are down. I think this is going to be a really close game, Frank, but Springfield may just have enough in the back pocket with maybe a long pass play late in the game to sort of pull this one out, 28-27.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, looking back at those highlights when I was packaging up Crunch Time, Hudson had a really good week. There's no doubt about it. And, Springfield struggled, but in a rivalry game. I'm going to say Springfield's still the class here, and that they're going to win this game, but I think it'll be an interesting game for sure. 27-24, the old perennial score of everybody's love there, in favor of Springfield in that game. Then in Regions 2/1, so we're calling the first region the home teams region, so that's why it's set up backward like that. We're trying to figure out a right convention for these cross-regional games. It's Endicott at Ithaca. I saw an Ithaca team that really had a lot of promise last week and narrowly lost to number 8 in the country. Endicott is also ranked, but the homestand here, and knowing that their backs are against the wall. If they lose this game, Ithaca may have to win Corsica. Well, let me say it this way. If they lose this game and they don't win the Liberty League, I don't think they can get in, essentially, unless they beat Cortland and Prey as a 3-loss team. They're going to have a great resume. They're going to have one of the best strength of schedules that's in existence, probably, if I had to guess, in the NPI formula. So Ithaca is that team that could go 7-3, but one of those wins has to be against Cortland and Corsica if they lose one in the Liberty League. So this is a huge must-win game. Endicott can afford a loss, technically, in the out-of-conference to still make it in. Not that they want to do that. Ithaca wins 31-28 in a good one.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a close one. A little lower scoring maybe with the defenses being strong. I'll take the Bombers 20-17 at home.
The Mules at the goals.
Oh, man, I have to pick this one first? Shoot.
Yes.
I'm tempted to pick Salisbury to upset the Mules here, but I think Coach Milne would never talk to us again. But then again, if I pick them, he might not want to talk to me either, because then he said, then if they lose, then I'm a jinx. So I can't win here, Frank. But I'll take the Mules in a high-scoring shootout. Maybe Chris Fauchot will have to run back another kickoff for 100 yards to be the difference. But Muhlenberg wins 42-35.
In quick hits, I made a choice on this one already, so I had to stick with it. Salisbury. I think that they have enough firepower right now offensively to jump out to an early lead and possibly play keep away with the way that their style of offense goes, so that Muhlenberg can't necessarily catch up as easily as they'd want to in that situation. So I'm going to pick Salisbury in this game 31-24 in the upset, essentially, in that game.
Yeah, that would be.
Hopkins at Christopher Newport. I don't know if Will Leger's back. Obviously, the tendon issue in the elbow area could be something that takes weeks, or it could take a small amount of time if they feel he's ready to go. I don't know. I'm going to guess he's not back. But Bay Harvey, my goodness, you got to credit him. That Swiss Army time that he spent obviously has built up his ability to fight through anything, and he did so last week. I think he continues to show he's one of the classiest quarterbacks in the entirety of the nation, just in his style of play. I'm going to pick Hopkins here. Go Hop. 34-28, and another good game. Hopkins is going to probably be scared again.
Yeah, and I think the Captains gave them a run last year in this same game, but at Homewood. So I think it'll be a close one, but because of Bay Harvey and I think the Hopkins defense making a few plays here, Hopkins will win this one, say 34-21.
You pick Brockport at Susquehanna, the weird game from last year that started a whole domino effect of weirdness in the
6-5 or whatever it was, the kind of crazy
landmark
score on this
E8
one
thing. Yep. So the landmark E8 deal, don't forget, is over after this year. So these games, we won't be seeing them next season, obviously. Go ahead.
Well, we had Susquehanna, I think, right in our top 10 in our ranking. So, and we saw Brockport win the I-90 Bowl, but they didn't score in the second and fourth quarters. So I think Riverhawks are going to. Yeah, so I think the Riverhawks are probably going to hold court at home. I don't think we're going to see a 1-point game. It might be close, but I'll take Susquehanna to outlast the Golden Eagles, let's say 35-21.
Yeah, I think defense is going to play another role in this game no matter what. It's going to be good weather, looks like, warm for sure. But defense, Brockport's specialty out there, and Susquehanna ain't so bad either in that realm. So I'm going to keep it low scoring to the tune of Susquehanna winning 17-10 in this game, and getting ready for that Cortland game next week that, no secret, I will be attending. Regions 3 and 4 combine in this one. DePauw at Barry. This is tough. But I'm going to give the experience points with the playoff experience to DePauw in this game as the away team to win the game narrowly by a final score of 28-24 in this game. Actually, I was going to say 20-23. Let me go there. 28-23 DePauw. I just think that little extra edge of experience is going to play the role. They know how to probably try to contain Brandon Cade. Doesn't mean they will, but I think it's going to be a very good game. Luke Marsh and company. We'll see how this goes for them. But if they can get through this game, they could go 9-0 until the Mona Bell game. Ultimately, that's what's on the line there when you think about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean towards the Vikings, though, at home. It'll be I think their home opener and the Viking walk and the whole pomp and circumstance. And I feel like Coach K is going to try to shorten the game a little bit, using a lot of running plays with guys like Rodgers and Cade to try to wear down the Tigers' defense. So I think this will be a little more of an old-fashioned slugfest and a lower scoring game, but I think Barry's going to hang on and win it 28-24.
7 games left, less than 5 minutes. We'll go a little faster here. Hobart or Randolph-Macon, go.
Randolph-Macon's won 56 games out of their last 64, defending ODAC champs, national semifinalists. I'd love to pick my Statesmen, but they can't throw the ball like Dickinson could and keep I just hope that the Statesman defense keeps them around, but I'll take Randolph-Macon 35-21.
Yeah, Yellow Jackets for me as well. 40-21. I think that's going to be a good 19-point game, to be honest with you. Alma at Denison, will Alma bounce back? My answer is yes, they will. We're watching this game just to see what the bounce back is. Alma, I think, will win this game 37-10.
Yeah, I'll also take the Scots, but maybe a bigger score, 45-17.
Ohio Wesleyan at Wabash, which was, I think, your pick for Region 4 game of the week. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like the Little Giants. I think the 31-0 blowout in Week 1 shows that this team has the ability to put up points. Ohio Wesleyan's a good one, but Wabash at home, I'll take the Little Giants 35-17.
The 100-yard run back of the fumble into the end zone at the end of the second quarter was an amazing play there for Wabash for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick Wabash in this game 37-7. Let's see, up next, Illinois College at Lake Forest. It looks like I'm going to probably be picking the away teams in the games I'm attending, and that may give it a little bit of secret as to what's coming up next here. But Illinois College, Destin Chance is a special quarterback. His team is really matured, and so I just have to give an edge here over Lake Forest in this game. Illinois College wins a lower scoring affair than maybe some assume, 24-20.
Yeah, I'm just kind of quickly seeing. Yeah, so they lost to Lake Forest last year, 37-6. It was like it was their only loss in conference. I don't know what happened there, but I think the Blue Boys will be motivated by that loss and the playoff experience. Playing at Wartburg. I'll take the Blue Boys on the road. Sort of. It's not that far of a trip for them. Let's say 21-17, lower scoring game.
Without using the words battle-tested, JB, please pick this game of North Central at Aurora.
I think it's going to be a 56 maybe point game for the Cardinals. It'll just depend on how many points Aurora can go with. I'll say it's a shootout, but in the end, too much Cardinals, 56-35.
Yeah, it reminds me of the setup of the North Central Wheaton game I attended last year in a lot of ways, and the rankings may be very similar in that respect too. It may be a shootout at the end in terms of a rising lower end score, getting up there. I think North Central does win this game, puts them away at the tune of 49-27 North Central. But we'll see. I mean, look, Aurora has shocked us before in many different ways. This would be the ultimate shock, no doubt. Wartburg at St. John's on a 6-5 regional showdown here. I'm picking St. John's in this game. I think Aaron Severson, who was a guest on our show in the preseason, kind of made it clear that there is, for them too, unfinished business, and he showed no rust in Game 1 this year. And so I'm going to say Wartburg, who struggled with Monmouth a little bit, is going to have their hands full in this one. St. John's wins this 31-20.
Yeah, I'll take the Johnnies too. 31-17.
Tough one with the 53 seconds we have left here. Region 6 outright.
Are they at Linfield or at Oshkosh?
Is it the other way
I
around?
think it's the other way around. I think so.
I can always make that change as we're talking. Go ahead.
Is this going to be, is Linfield back? And I think, if they can go to Wisconsin and win this game, then I think they put the NWC on notice. But the Titans won a close one against Wheaton, who we're not sure is as strong as everybody thinks. I'm going to pick the Wildcats on the road, though. I think they've got something to prove. They want to get back in the playoffs. This game would get them kind of back on the map in certain ways. And so I'll take the Cats to win 31-28.
I think Oshkosh has the experience level already built up a little bit here from their game. At Linfield versus Denison last week, a 31-7 game. You're right, it is at Oshkosh, just confirming myself here. But I think the fact that it is at Oshkosh has this good experience versus Wheaton ultimately. 21-14, I think was the final on that one.
Yeah,
I just think that this team's trying to prove something with the scheduling and with what's ahead for them as well. But if they lose this game, a lot is off the table with respect to that. I just think they have a better than average chance to win this game. Oshkosh wins 28-21 at home. And that's going to pretty much do it for our picks. You get to give people the viewing pleasure guidance here at this point. So for those that are looking for how to view week 2, give them a little bit of heads up on what to do.
Well, you can watch some games tonight. There's 3 games in Region 1, St. Lawrence, Norwich, WestCon, Mass Maritime, UNE versus WPI. We also got RPI versus Wilkes. So there's at least 4 Friday Night Lights games worth checking out. And then Saturday, things are kicking off at noon with you could check out either Hardin Simmons at Curry, you could check out Hobart at Randolph-Macon, and then we kind of start getting into these big blockbuster 1 o'clock matchups with Brockport versus Susquehanna, Endicott, Ithaca. You've got DePauw, Barry also at 1, and then it's interesting. They're kind of sprinkled throughout the day, particularly in Region 2. We have Montclair State of Gettysburg at 3, Muhlenberg, Salisbury at 4, SUNY Maritime Union is also at 4, Hopkins, Christopher Newport's at 5, and then we have some more night games, including the one that you're going to be going to, Frank. Speaking of 2 o'clock games, though, Illinois College at Lake Forest is the one that you'll be at and tweeting from, I'm sure, with some video. Wartburg St. John's is also at 2 o'clock. Linfield Oshkosh is at 2 o'clock. And then we start getting into some of the 4 p.m., 8 p.m. games in Region 5 and 6. North Central Aurora is the 7 p.m. kind of main event, but we also have Trine versus Rolls-Holman, Trinity versus Bellhaven, which is kind of a must-win game for both teams now, as well as a few others going on. So that's kind of how I would stack it up, and it should be an exciting day of D3 football, and I like the staggered kickoff times. You can pretty much start watching at noon and keep it going until George Fox starts playing at 10 o'clock. So it's going to be an all-day
Start tonight
thing.
with that RPI Wilkes game. I'll, though, be watching the Scotties, Balsa Spa football, hosting Averill Park in a big game. So thank you. Appreciate that. I will give you a quick story as we exit here in D3. You had met Vicky Savini, who's the mother of Nico Savini, defensive back for Union. Nico was a Balsa Spa player. I got a text last night, and remember what I was saying out in the tailgate at Utica on Friday night last week. She texted me, "How did I get in charge of the freshman parents' tailgate tomorrow?" I'm like, I knew it was going to happen, but that's what happens, folks. Somebody's got to run those tailgates and get the parents early and often on that stuff that are willing to put it all together.
Speaking of MVPs, the real MVPs are the football moms and the coaches' wives. Man, they really keep things running.
We saw Joe Biden put on a Donald Trump hat, I guess, yesterday. This was all the rage. So to tell you who I'm going to pick in the Wilkes game.
Uh-oh, look at that.
RPI's got that game. That's my guess on that. They'll bounce back from that UWL game. We didn't pick it officially in Lightning, but that's who I'm picking. So I will, say to the opposition as a Union guy, you've got this one probably. So we'll leave you on that note. Great show. Thanks to BJ Adamchik. And Clark over North Central, thanks to him for helping us always get great guests from North Central. Thanks to you for watching, and we'll see where this goes. Can't wait to hit it for the Windy City tomorrow morning and get there to watch 2 quality Division III games in Region 5. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of stuff throughout this weekend, on Twitter especially, coming at you. That's your line, I know. JB, talk to you soon. Folks, we'll see you soon.